I know what you're thinking. Doug, why are you wearing a stupid Jughead Bazooka Joe hat? Well, I don't know. I thought I would commemorate. This is a very different kind of video. What happened was I had like 3 articles sitting on my desktop for days now. And I go, how am I going to, I don't really want to do one video on each. So I'm going to come put them all together, even though they're all about really different things. So this video, it's kind of like leftovers. You know, you make a casserole, you go, oh, look, I found some rice, I found some broccoli. Here's some chicken, and I'll put in some chicken mushroom soup and make this casserole and cook it all together. That's what I'm making for you in this episode. Welcome to Doug in Exile. It's casserole time. Whole lot of Megyn Kelly, though, and her defending Trump. I always learn something from Megyn Kelly. I think she's really smart. But watch her completely smear this Dan Abrams guy who knows nothing. The poor news kid.
There's wrongdoing here, right? There was definitely wrongdoing. Whether it should have been a crime is a separate. What's the wrongdoing? What's the wrongdoing? All right, number one, it's paying $130,000 to a star to keep her quiet. That's to try to protect your campaign. Can we at least agree that's wrong?
That's not illegal.
So Abrams is switching between morality and legality, and Megyn Kelly just goes, look, it's not illegal for him to have paid Stormy.
I'm talking about the $130,000 to keep her quiet to protect his campaign.
Immoral? There's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's not illegal also to pay someone else not to say certain things. You know, on this job, even on this channel, I'm paid, and if I say certain things, I will lose this channel. It's like paying me to be quiet. It's done in America all the time.
When you're doing it to protect the campaign and you are spending money on it, then now I'm going to switch back to the legal. You are now crossing the line into legal problems, right?
You aren't. That's absolutely not right. Incorrect at every level.
I like Megyn Kelly because she's pretty and she just beat the living daylights out of this guy. And because she's a brilliant legal mind, and she's kind of blunt. She's tough. And so she just goes in and just rips him apart. And this Dan Abrams, I can't believe he even went on the air this half-cocked and this lacking in knowledge.
And you don't think he falsified business records either?
I don't know what he did. I don't think he wrote down.
What does that mean? We just had a whole trial. We heard every detail of this. How can you not know?
I don't think he wrote down hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. Nobody who pays hush money would write down such a thing. I think he wrote down, or someone at the Trump organization wrote down, legal expenses from the drop-down Adobe menu. And that made as much sense as anything else because hush money wasn't an option.
Yeah, also weird that if Trump was trying to hide the payment to Stormy Daniels, they sure classified it weird. It was very public. The way that he sent this money to Cohen, at least under legal expenses, he could have hidden it. He'd have done it under the table if he wanted it to be private. This is all on the up and up. He even paid Cohen extra to cover his extra personal taxes he'd have to pay if Trump paid him. So there was no scrub quieting is what's weird. They wanted to keep Stormy Daniels quiet, but this was a normal business arrangement to say, look, will you agree to take this money if you don't talk about this subject? And she said, yes.
I think you pay your lawyer money because he outlaid money for you. You could easily classify that as a legal expense.
No matter what it's for, right? Even if it's illegal conduct, you can just put it's a legal expense, right?
This wasn't illegal. There's nothing illegal about paying hush money for an NDA. It's done
There's not.
all the time.
But when you're doing it to protect your campaign, it is.
Ah, that's the rub. Is Dan Abrams magically can read Trump's mind and say, I know you're doing it to protect your campaign, which was never proven and never proven in court. And that ultimately is what pushes this up to a felony. So, but that's just magic thinking. You know, Trump could have, he could have been doing the hush up money to make his business look good. He could have hushed up Stormy Daniels to protect his marriage with his wife. He didn't by necessity do it to overturn an election. And that was never proven.
That's the difference.
No. So, what law are you citing, Dan?
Campaign finance laws. You're not allowed to give the...
You don't know what you're talking
about.
What
are you talking?
You're wrong.
Explain to me.
Let me explain
Tell me what I'm getting wrong. Tell me what I'm getting wrong. When you're spending $130,000...
I'll explain.
Go ahead.
I get it, because you're saying that there are limits to the campaign contribution somebody could make, and this has exceeded them, and then they hit it. I understand. That's his theory. However, this has been wrong from the start.
Yeah.
does not amount to a campaign contribution if it is the kind of payment that could ever be made outside of the campaign context.
So here, Megyn Kelly knows the standard and Dan Abrams does not. So she's just going to keep calling him wrong. And of course, I trust her. And he's already been proven wrong so many times. He lacks credibility.
The standard is substantiality. It's not. It's substantiality.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You're wrong.
Okay.
No, it's not.
I guess we're going to have to agree.
There's been Supreme Court precedent on this. Talk to Brad Smith, who was the FEC commissioner.
Court that the standard is substantiality.
I do love watching these two argue because it proves that people who think like, oh, this Trump case, Trump is definitely a felon. When you have 12 jurors agree on 34 counts, they think they're united. And really, they just show that they're all from the same political party. Because this case was so convoluted and spaghetti and all over the place, it should have a divided jury. The fact that they're united is purely because this was like, look, we can't let Trump, who tried to steal an election, become the president because it's the end of democracy. That's why they ignored all the evidence in the case and just went and found Trump and said, he has to be a felon.
We have seen some corruption that this country has frankly never seen before in our judicial system.
Oh yeah, welcome to the new judicial system. It's America 2.0. Our judicial system is now politics. Our judicial system is now how we vote, how we take people on and off of ballots, how we decide who gets edited out of society. That's what our judicial system is now. It's a new form of corruption. Now, getting back to this part of the casserole, this is a great insult by John Kennedy. It doesn't fit anywhere. I just thought it was a great line.
President Biden is in trouble politically. He's polling right up there with fungal infections.
I love him. Okay, look, here's Keith Olbermann on Twitter with something truly horrible. This is like something you'd find when you're sitting on the toilet, is what it's like reading Keith Olbermann's Twitter. What's the difference between Clarence Thomas and a monkey? He writes, Clarence Thomas actually belongs in a cage. Keith Olbermann, what a psycho. And we all know what would happen if I made this kind of a comment about Barack Obama. I mean, I would probably be in prison for life and probably never be able to work again. But here's a guy on Twitter, the IT guy, says, I'm old enough to remember when Roseanne Barr was banished from society for something less blunt than this. Oh, he's right. Here's that that Roseanne Barr saying, just to take you down memory lane. And we'll get back to Megyn Kelly. Hold tight. Okay. But on Tuesday, all that came crashing down. ABC abruptly canceled Roseanne, her show, hours after Miss Barr, the show's star and co-creator, posted a tweet, allegedly, about Valerie Jarrett, an African-American woman who was a senior advisor. By the way, she looked so white that Roseanne Barr didn't even know she was African-American. A senior advisor to Barack Obama throughout his presidency and considered one of his most influential aides. Miss Barr wrote, if the, quote, Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby, unquote. So they automatically knew that was racist and her career was over. But Keith Olbermann, you're safe. What do you guys, I remember this, now I'm a comic book artist. I remember this old comic. This is a monkey that was shot twice by a cop, and it said they'll have to find someone else to write the next stimulus bill. Now, I don't know who wrote the stimulus bill, but it was not Barack Obama. But this comic artist, they said that he was saying that these cops would shoot a monkey and that was Barack Obama. Now that is an insane connection. I'm only saying Keith Olbermann literally made a connection between Clarence Thomas and a monkey and said Clarence Thomas should be in a cage. Nothing from these weirdo leftists. Here's the NBC News from years ago. This is cartoon said to link Obama to a dead chimp. The New York Post is standing behind a cartoon that some have interpreted as comparing President Barack Obama to a violent chimpanzee gunned down by the police. Now, I would not have made that connection if I saw that comic where I look at it and go, oh, that's about Barack Obama, you know? No, you know who does do it? Leftists and MSNBC hosts are the ones that make the connection for you. Here's a quote. Civil rights activist Al Sharpton called the cartoon, quote, troubling at best, given the historic attacks of African Americans as being synonymous with monkeys, unquote. So Al Sharpton, just in case you didn't make the connection, he made the case. This is what I mean by this two-tier justice system. If I could tie this back to the Megyn Kelly thing and Trump, the two-tier justice system by Democrats has been there all along. This isn't the first time, guys. This is the culmination of a two-tier justice system. This is the climax of a two-tier justice system is Trump is found to be a felon and Biden goes, is innocent. Here's Elena Haba. I love this smile.
Donald Trump is the victim of political selective prosecution.
And if he fails in his appeal that you say that you would win, and he does end up in jail, would he run for president from a jail cell?
He is running for president.
Okay. She's trying to pin her down, saying, what happens to Trump if he runs? Does he go in a jail? She goes, no. He's running for president. Watch this smile.
Nothing will change there.
Even if he ends up being locked up.
Wow, that's a telling smile. Let's get back to Megyn Kelly now on Trump incarceration.
Former Manhattan Assistant DA Stuart Meisner to Politico. Merchant will likely sentence Trump to a term of incarceration. I don't think much, but I think it would be included just to show that no one's above the law.
Okay, that's Politico saying Trump is going to be incarcerated. That's what they believe. Now, are they united on that? Listen to this.
Peter Tillum, New York defense lawyer, former ADA in New York County DA's office in Manhattan. Judge Merchant is not known as a draconian sentencer. He's not known to be the toughest sentencer in the building. I don't think he'd want to start with this particular case.
Okay, first guy says Trump, knowing Merchant, Trump will be sent to prison. The second guy who says, I know Merchant, and he's not a draconian guy. He's not going to send Trump to prison. So you have one saying yes, another saying no. Here's a third one just to muddle things up.
And then there's Ron Kuby, a veteran New York criminal defense attorney, who says Judge Merchant is known for being a harsh sentencer when it comes to white-collar crimes committed by people who have wealth and privilege and power. It's substantially likely that Merchant will sentence Trump to jail or prison time.
So that's Trump is going to jail by one expert. Another expert says Trump is not going to jail. Then another expert says Trump is going to jail. Megyn Kelly says Trump is not going to jail. This guy says he's not going to jail. I say he is.
Alvin Bragg asks for jail here, which I'm assuming he's going to. It's going to go down as one of the most hypocritical statements I've ever seen. This is an administration, the Bragg administration, that ran on and has functioned as the alternatives to incarceration. Everyone deserves a second chance. Anything but jail on violent crimes, on crimes of people who are predicate felons, meaning they already have a felony conviction. All of a sudden, in this lowest level paper crime, he asks for jail. It is beyond preposterous.
In this one instance, like Alvin Bragg, who has allowed people, armed gunmen who've held up liquor stores, he's let them go, did not recommend jail. And then Trump does this business accounting record and he's a felon and he goes to jail. That shows how out of whack. That's why I do believe in the end, their goal is just to throw Trump in jail. They'll break any rule. All these appeals courts, there'll be appeals courts will just reject it and not take the case. Goes back to Juan Merchant. He goes, Trump's going to jail. Don't ask me why he's going to jail. It's because he's a Republican. We're Democrats, and his name is Trump, and he's the leading candidate. Therefore, he goes to jail.
Let's say he sentences him to 3 days in jail. Immediately, you say to Merchant, Your Honor, and my client be held in the back. So he's got to leave the courtroom once the judge leaves the bench and allow me the opportunity to go to the appellate division. And you say, Judge, my client's being sentenced at 11 o'clock. I would like to have a tentative appointment with you at 1 p.m. or we come over and see you then if there's a period of incarceration.
So this is what happens if Merchant does signal that he's going to allow Trump to take up an appeal. By the way, Merchant could just turn him around and remand him, go, no, you're going straight to Rikers Island. You cannot go to your appeals court. You get in jail. There's reason why he shouldn't do that, because if the case got appealed, Trump can't get those 3 days in jail back. Let's say he sentences him for 3 jail. So they're going to say this kind of stuff. Just listen to these lawyers argue over what would happen, how the appeal will work. This is an education, guys. I'm learning what the next steps are for Trump when he goes and gets the sentence on July 11th or whenever it is, and he goes up for an appeal.
The judge says, yes, you run over there with the prosecutor. You have some paperwork. You have to show the judge at the appellate division the likelihood of success at the appellate level. You have to say, Judge, look at these unique circumstances, never done before. You cannot let this guy go to jail for 3 minutes, let alone 3 days, because by the time his appeal gets perfected, there's no redress. He can't get those 3 days back.
Okay, so they're going to try to make a case that this is outlandish. That's why an appellate judge will, and by the way, Trump can pick, this is right after he's found guilty and right after Mershon, let's say, says, and you must go to jail. And then they go, can I go get an appeals guy? And they go, yes. He goes back, and Trump gets to pick between 23 judges. It's the only time someone gets to pick their own judge. They will have already had their judge picked and set up. They'll know who's sympathetic to Trump. So they're going to get a sympathetic appeals court judge for Trump to bring his case to and say, these are the outlying weirdo things that Mershon did. And the judge, if they pick him right, he should agree and say, yes, I will approve your appeal case.
The judge will stay the prison time until the appeal is over. So this jail time thing will get put on the side until the appeal is totally perfected. And if he loses the appeal at both the appellate division and the Court of Appeals, if they allow him to go up there, then he would have to do his 3 days in jail.
So I like that, because that shows the kinds of conditions that even if he gets a sentence to go to jail, if Mershon allows him to go back and talk to an appeals judge, then there's a very good chance that even if he's guilty and is sent to jail, that he doesn't have to serve until his Court of Appeals case is done. And they're all saying this could take years, some of them 4 years, sometimes 1 year, even if it's expedited. So once he goes into an appeal case, this thing's going to get vanished.
I think all you have to do is raise that one issue about the jury instructions. They were either correct or they weren't. And that issue alone, I think, would serve as the basis to grant him a stay, and so he doesn't serve the sentence.
So these lawyers are talking about what's normal. Like, what's normal is just Juan Mershon's 51 pages of jury instructions have enough mistakes in this case that it ought to trigger an appeal, but they still think this is normal land. They don't realize that this justice system is part of politics now in Manhattan. This is how they vote. This is how they select candidates. They're still thinking this is how you uphold the law. And we're all just laughing at them. You're so naive. It's like, Kevin O'Leary, you poor innocent puppy. You guys don't understand how biased, how pragmatic, how jaded, how ends justify the means the Manhattan Democrats are. Look, Manhattan, 90% for Biden and against Trump. They believe Trump stole the 2016 election. They believe he tried to steal the 2020 election. They believe he sent violent people to overthrow the Capitol with guns and fire and weapons. That's what they believe about him. They believe he did all of those bad things to E. Jean Carroll and to every woman he's ever met. They probably assume that he's a monster.
Number one,
maybe you're right.
The state constitution of New York was violated. It is not okay to just incorporate by reference the entire criminal law. If he tried to falsify the business records by unlawful means, that's how we got the dead misdemeanor resurrected up to a felony, because he said they violated the New York election law, which says you can't win an election or try to win an election by unlawful means. And that unlawful means is so amorphous as to effectively incorporate by reference all federal law and all New York state law.
Yeah, that's the big one. And so that's Megyn's opinion on how this thing gets overturned, is based on that wrong application of trying to turn this into an election law federal cover-up. So that's the second point. There's 500 reasons why they could give a good reason for an appeal. It does not mean the judges will be reasonable and are there to uphold the law and are not there just for politics.
Here's Trump and what I think he's going to sound like talking to Judge Merchan on July 11th during the sentencing. This may have been a preview. He had a presser this morning at 11 a.m.
So I'm the leading person for president, and I'm under a gag order by a man that can't put two sentences together.
I just put that clip in because I think it's so funny. Trump goes, I have a gag order by a man, meaning Biden put the gag order on him and not the judge, implying the judge is working for Biden. But not only that, but ironically, Trump has the gag order, but Biden's the one that can't put two sentences together. So now Trump and Biden are on equal ground because they both can't speak. Maybe that's what the Democrats were doing. They're trying to even a playing field. This is what they do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. They no longer go for merit or ability. They go, we want equal outcomes. So the man who overperforms, you get crushed down. And the man who underperforms, we're going to lift you up and give you all these benefits. That's all they're doing with Trump and Biden. Biden can't talk. Well, we gave Trump a gag order. Now it's fair by socialist standards.
He should make an appeal to the New York Court of Appeals, asking them to bypass the appellate division, because he's not going to get justice in the appellate division. The appellate division are Manhattan judges that are elected, and they don't want to have to face their families and say, we're the judge who allowed Trump to become the next president of the United States.
So there in Manhattan, those judges with their families will not be able to deal with the hatred they'll get from their neighbors. That's a good point by Alan Dershowitz, on Democrat, who is supporting Trump. That's a real good reason. I like that one.
Go to the New York Court of Appeals, ask for an expedited appeal. In the meantime, prepare for an expedited appeal in the United States Supreme Court and say that this was a rush to try to get this case a verdict, a conviction before election, and the Supreme Court of the United States has an obligation to review this case before the election so that the American public knows whether or not Donald Trump is guilty or not guilty of these made-up crimes.
Now, if that's true, he's predicting this goes to the Supreme Court before the election, and they have to settle this case before the election. That means the Supreme Court appeals it before the election, if they agree to take the case. I'm Doug in Exile. Subscribe.